Hey, it's Nick Handley with Mornings of Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, as we are celebrating 25 years with Gary Java, member of 1620 The Zone from the very first day, one of the OGs, one of the originals that brought all of that sports content to your radio airwaves. I'm so happy to be talking to my friend Gary Java. You are a man from Buffalo and you find your way into Omaha, and you have stayed in Omaha. So how did this all come about for you, Gary?
Well, my mom and dad and brother, sister, and 199 other families had an opportunity to leave a closing Western Electric, a shutting down industry in Buffalo, and they had a chance to move to Omaha. So they did. I didn't. I came out for their first Christmas. I was 25, industrious enough, and ambitious enough. I called all three of the local TV stations and asked as a news director here and say, hey, do you have any? I'm a news and sports director at WSDO in Oswego, New York. Whatever. You just throw out the letters. And Channel 3's he was a veteran. He was a tough old veteran who had hired and worked with that Johnny Carson fellow and that Tom Brokaw guy and Chuck Roberts, who went on to CNN fame. And he just were talking over the phone, and he didn't hang up on me. It turned out Channel 3 was the last TV station in the Omaha market not to have a second sports person. He says, come on down. He says, you want to come on? I said, I'm here for a couple of days. I'll be right. I'll be down there tomorrow. So he said, anyway, he says, yeah, come on. He kind of liked me. He says, we're starting auditions in April of 77. So I flew back to Oswego, New York. We're the KFAB of Oswego County. You like when I drop names, letters like that, don't I? Apologize.
They never leave.
Anyway, I went back. I gave 4 months' notice, and I came to Omaha, auditioned for the second TV sports job to be Jim Kelter, who was a sports director at the time, the late, great Jim Kelter. Yep. God bless him. And anyway, so it went on for a while. Nothing happened. And Dave Weber got the job. Dave Weber.
Oh, that guy.
That guy. And he came out all right on the deal. He wanted a little more money for what KMTV was budgeting at the time for this new position. But he was polished. He was coming from, I believe, Sioux Falls. He had some commercial TV experience working in Sioux Falls. He came in, he got the job. They told me I finished second. And you know what it's like. There might have been a 332-way tie for second. It doesn't matter. Second, 180th, you weren't first. So thanks for applying and thanks for your interest. Within 3 or 4 months, I'm working for a small local company, and I open a branch down in Wichita. Anyway, my mom calls me and says, Mark Gautier, he was the news director. Channel 3 called. They want you to call him tomorrow. He called and says, Dave Weber's leaving. And the rest is history. He had a chance to go over and be number 1 at Channel 6 instead of number 2 at Channel 3. And Mark says, hey, kid, he says, I don't care. He says, we just did all that audition BS. We're not going through that again. You're next in line. How soon can you start? And the way I was brought up, blue-collar town, it's the same way here in Nebraska, Western New York. I'll be there I'll give 2 weeks notice and I'll be there. Oh, this is great. And he says, I'll get back to you, kid. And never heard from him again.
What was making that transition like for you from interest in the television side of it to getting into the radio side of it and really making a pretty solid home on the radio side of it?
It's a good question, but then put in between interest in television, almost woulda, coulda, shoulda had a TV job. I would have been going from small market radio in Central New York to medium size TV market in Omaha, making twice as much money, even though I was the voice of Oswego State Great Laker Hockey, Division III, look it up. In between that, I'm a salesman for a very reputable and a very well-known paper, disposable products, cleaning products, industrial supplies, and I'm making a nice living. But, I always had this sports talk idea, a sports casting idea in my head. So just making that transition, the first thing, I knew the concept, which was very simple because I'm a very simple guy, that it should sound like me and a co-host talking about sports, and the listener in their car, truck, in their office, on a phone, on the radio, on those old radio days, should feel comfortable either eavesdropping, just listening in, or actively calling in and being part of the show. Very simple concept.
Yeah.
And we get our guests by phone. They don't have to come all the way down to the radio station. Once you went on the air and sports fans heard it, they knew that, hey, this is going to be fun. This is here for us if we want. There's 4 other buttons on the dashboard. And if they're interested, they want to hear some music. But at the time, and that was one of the reasons I wanted afternoon drive. Nothing against you and Jerry Sharp for your morning show. I know things have evolved and exploded since then. I wanted to be in the afternoon because all the big morning shows, AM, FM, all the big morning shows were in the morning. That's what they call them, morning shows, I guess. The afternoon was kind of wide open. There weren't any, I didn't have to go up against any established personalities or any big shows. They just played music back then. So it was just getting started. And I remember being asked every couple days, every few days, hey, how many calls you get on the show last night? Well, 3, 4, 2. I said, but we had a good show. We had a guest on. We had this guy from the Akron Beacon Journal talking about the Cleveland Browns and Ohio State football. And between me and producers, Tony Boone, Derek Kowal, Kerry Peterson, these guys, that was, hey, call this place and call this place because whatever, Amari Cooper just got traded. Call Tennessee, and call this newspaper, and that's what we would do. And even locally, just giving the World Herald sports writers an opportunity to expand from 800 or 1,000 words, two-dimensional print, where you can't quite read the intent or the tone of voice the great Lee Barkley was writing with. People could hear them. Their readers could hear them talk and expound on thoughts and ideas, including Dennis Dodd. Dennis Dodd worked for the World Herald for a year and a half before he went to this CBS.com thing way back then.
Everyone that has been a part of the start of 1620 is always going to say one name, Neil Nelkin. You had a relationship, continue to have a relationship with Neil Nelkin. Your first meeting with Neil and your first impression of Neil was what?
First meeting was trying to sell myself and my show and get the idea of a sports talk show to Marty Riemenschneider, the company president, and Neil. And Neil, I said, wow, great voice, nice guy. We didn't say a lot. Not a lot of laughing and joking at the meeting. This is what I'd like to do. This is what I'm thinking of. What do you guys think? It was pretty businesslike. Well, we can do this many commercial minutes, and would it be would I buy my own time, or would they pay me, and how does this work? It was nothing like the relationship that we had when we started working together, and we let our hair down and say whatever we wanted to each other. People always ask, hey, do you miss this? Do you miss that? And I said, keeping in mind, it wasn't all the streaming. There wasn't a lot of competition then.
Right.
Like I said, 5 AM dials, 5 FM dials on your car and your truck dashboard. And then I said, keep in mind, it was a lot of fun. And I said it was the most fun I ever got paid to have. I say to Neil many times, he'd come up, he'd come up with a wisecrack comment or angle. Say, hey, Neil, can I say this? He look at me and go, yeah, once.
The sports content, as that transition was happening, where you would see high school football on Sports Radio 1180 Coil, you would get some of that on KCAR as well. As 1620 is transitioning, you're also, which is kind of rare now with the Husker affiliates, the Husker Sports Network, was kind of splintered, where you had an Omaha Sports Nightly and a Lincoln Sports Nightly, and you were doing the Sports Nightly, so you were in on the happenings of Nebraska football. I always thought very interesting that there was 2 separate shows, a Lincoln and an Omaha show.
We thought it was interesting too. It was old friend, everybody knows, Jim Rose at KLIN Studios in Lincoln. And it was me at our KKAR studios in Omaha. We had no video. And we'd just get hooked up. And he'd have an engineer, a board operator. I'd have Gary Peterson with me, and everybody making sure, is everything okay? We got everything, this, trying to make it work technically. And it did. Now everybody does it. Now we can look at each other, and people can do Zooms. And Mike Tirico's on a show in Los Angeles, and he's doing it from Dearborn, Michigan, in his studio or something.
Starting out and bringing in a partner like a Chad Kelsey, a former Nebraska football player, and having that Monday night show as 1620 The Zone launches, for you, what did you always find appealing about the Omaha and the Nebraska sports community and passion that you had?
People loved it. People lived it. They supported it. People were passionate about their teams. So I was smart enough to know, let's support the home teams. And if somebody's having a fundraiser, spaghetti dinner for the new baseball fields down in South Omaha to fix up Booth Field, whatever, and if coach called up, give me some information.
Yeah.
Give me information. I'll read it at least a couple times a show. And when we get close to the event, we'll talk to you, give us a call, we'll talk to you for 5-10 minutes and help you promote your event. You just supported the local sports community, and it grew. People were passionate about their teams, whether they were high school teams, college sports, or there's Missouri Valley basketball, it was UNO football, and all. People were just passionate about it, and they liked it, and they liked that people were talking about and supporting their programs.
I always felt, Gary, and you can expand on this, I always felt that your voice, especially people that had made an appointment listening to tune in, there was comfort there. They would celebrate with you. They would go over their frustrations with you. And in the case of Brooke Beringer, they would share some tears and stories and talk about someone's life with you. And I don't know if you've ever had a chance to sit back and have perspective of how powerful that can be.
It's a good thing I didn't think about it at the time, or I would have been nervous. I was one of the audience. I was in Omaha. I always say, Buffalo, New York's my hometown. Omaha's my home. I got two homes, and Omaha's been great to me since I moved here in '77. So I just felt like one of everybody else. Only I had the microphone and I had to say something, or at least get the conversation started, and then open up the phone lines and let people talk, not at me, not to me, but with me. We talk together. So I guess I never felt that responsibility. I guess I just kind of enjoyed the ride, and I understood when it was time to be serious, and when it was time to have fun. But we could all celebrate, and then you go out later that night, in the days when I used to go out a lot, and you just go someplace, whether it's the Rosenblatt Stadium for a Tuesday night Royals game in June, or whether we go to this watering hole or that watering hole, and people would say, hey, I just heard you, that was funny, or why that was stupid. People made me feel comfortable and at home, and it's always been home.
I go back to that very unfortunate night. I remember I was in high school when I found out that Brooke Beringer had passed away. I wore the number 18. Where were you? What was that coverage like? And I know Tom Chattel was with you at the time. Could you tell the listeners more about this story?
Sure. And Randy Ecker, our co-host, our point guard, the glue, Creighton Blue Jay Hall of Famer. Randy Ecker is my longtime radio host. Tom Chattel would join us on Thursdays, and we were at the Scorecard, the original sports bar in Omaha and Miracle Hills. But that night, I was the only one. They had headphones so they could hear programming, and they sat across from me at our table. And one of my headphones was the studio. It was Neil Melkin back in the studio, Gary Peterson in the studio. And while Randy and Tom were talking about something, I hear Neil in my ear, Java, take a break as soon as you can. Break as soon as you can. We need to talk to you. And I didn't interrupt, but as soon as someone took a breath and finished a statement, I said, We'll be right back with more. Randy Ecker, Tom Chattel, Gary Java, the scorecard. I'll be right back after this. Boom. And these guys are giving me a look of horror. What are you doing? What's the matter? I said, I don't know. I'm going to find out. So I'm talking to me, and I said, there is a report that a plane has gone down, a private plane has gone down outside of Lincoln, and there are reports or further talks that it might be Brooke Barringer. We got 3 minutes of commercial break to figure out what we're going to say. And the TVs were on at the scorecard. We were there, all the TVs. But all we had to go by was, I think it was Channel 6 at the time, that was reporting that, yes, Brooke Barringer was on that plane. Within 10, 15 minutes, the story was out. Mm-hmm. So we had to finish our show, Randy and Tom and I. Mm-hmm. Tom had to go down to Omaha World Herald office downtown. I had to go to our offices, and I'm sure he's trying to find quotes and people to talk to, comment on Brooke and how good he was and what you thought. And so I was doing the same thing in our newsroom alongside. I always like throwing in and reminding people, our news director, Brian Barks, who's now the president and CEO of Omaha Food Bank, we're trying to get quotes. And one of the people that I had called Trev Alberts. He was just auditioning at the time for CNN Sports. And then I had Rick Neuheisel, Colorado coach, and I got his gatekeeper. I got his secretary, executive assistant. He says, well, coach is in a meeting right now, but give me your name and who you're with and your phone number, and I'll get the note. She was repeating it loud enough so he could hear. He was within earshot. Yeah. And as soon as she said, that's KKR, and that's in Omaha, and I hear his voice in the back. I'll take that call. And she switched me through, and he couldn't have been any kinder and gracious and sympathetic and complimentary for everything Brooke was on and off the field. And an easy 15, 20 minutes talking to Rick Neuheisel, who I still enjoy listening to overnights.
Before I let you go, because another guy that, in fact, I just saw him, Chad Kelsey. Chad has always been terrific to me. It's always good to see him out at events, and he's always been great as a guest for us as well. Still looks like he could put the pads on too. He was your co-host for a little bit there too. Was there ever a previous relationship and how that all came together when you guys got paired up on Monday nights?
I don't think there was. Aside from when he was a player and I was a media guy, and he'd see me post games with the tape recorder like everybody else and putting a microphone up on the table. And Tuesday press conferences. But I don't think we really had a lot of back and forth. But I knew he was back in Omaha. Called him up and said, hey, here's what I got to do. Let's meet for lunch someplace. And I'll just tell you what I like to do. I'm doing a Monday night show to ask you why. Chad was just a good, solid guy, but he wasn't a lead man and a comedian on a microphone at press conferences and pre and post games. Yeah. And he said, I don't know, So I always used to dig him and make sure. Here's media guy, Chad Kelsey. He said, I'm not a media guy. Yeah, you're a media guy. You're on the radio. You got headphones. You got the cans on your head, and you're talking into a piece of metal that's plugged into something. You're a media guy. Yeah. And we just had a blast.
Between Kevin Kugler and Bob Bruce, and then you guys on Monday nights. I mean, that was my first experience of listening to 1620 The Zone.
Really?
Listening to you guys. And I was still pretty young, and I'm geeking out over sports talk radio, and my friends are like, what are you doing? What, this is what you listen to? I'm like, yeah, this is what I consume every day.
Yeah. I could call in if I want.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're full of crap.
Yeah.
I could just listen.
Or I need you to validate my opinion to my buddies. Like, hey, this is my thought, and they think I'm crazy. I need you guys to make me sound smart sometimes,
Listen to these two guys. They speak the truth. And one of them played for the Huskers.
That's right. So be careful what you say. Chad's awesome. Gary, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, whether we're doing it through a microphone or just when our paths cross. And I look forward to the next time that our paths do cross.
I look forward to it. We should make it happen also during the wintertime, when it's dark at night and people go home and shut the garage door and put on our sweats. We should get out and we should go have lunch and bring anybody you like.
I agree. Thank you so much, Gary. And to hear more stories and memories from the last 25 years, go to 1620thezone.com/25 years. That is Gary Java. Gary, all the best. We will talk to you soon, my friend.
And also with you. Thanks, Nick, and all you guys.